Marketer of the Day, episode 598. Create a better product, narrow down your audience, find the ideal price point, and grow with Crossword and word search hobbyist Jonah Phillips.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Marketer of the Day podcast. Are you thinking about starting your own business, or have you already started your own business and you've gotten all kinds of business advice? Well, we're here to tell you today that you should probably ignore most of that business advice that you get. And the guy to tell you this is Jonah Phillips. And Jonah is the founder and CEO of sites like Crossword, Hobbyist.com and wordsearch.com. And he's here to tell us all about how we can be unique in the marketplace and pursue our passion and make some money in the process. So Jonah, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Fantastic. Better than ever. So what sort of things do you have going on these days? I know you have like the crossword stuff, the word search stuff. So is that your main focus, or is there something else?
That's it. That's my full-time business right now. I started Crossword Hobbyist in 2013. My word search, I added to that 2015, and I've been working full-time on that. Used to be just me. Now we've got a team of a couple full-time people and a few part-time people as well.
Awesome. Growing, moving to bigger things like everyone wants to do. So can you tell us what this Crossword Hobbyist and what this My Word Search websites are?
Sure. So Crossword Hobbyist is an online tool for making crosswords. My Word Search is an online tool for making word searches. And you could make like a New York Times style crossword puzzle, but 99.9% of my customers are teachers. So think your fifth grade English teacher or science teacher with a list of vocab words, comes to the site, makes a puzzle, pays for either an individual puzzle or a subscription, then prints out usually her puzzle, 70% women, and prints it out and shares it with the students and hopefully comes back.
Awesome. And so it's amazing that in this day and age, there's no sort of free tool like this, right?
So actually, funny you should say that. There are probably about 50 free tools like this. So I was kind of surprised. I started the site thinking I would make a tool for making newspaper style puzzles, because that's what, classic entrepreneur story. I tried to do it. The existing software was all made 15 years ago and was, you have to download it. It doesn't work on the latest versions of Windows. It's $50. And I thought, I could make it, a cheap version in a month. Put it online using the modern, development tools and sell it for $20. I'd be the low-cost supplier. But it turned out that you have to be kind of a specific type of crazy person to want to make a crossword puzzle, because for your first crossword puzzle, even with tons of focus, it could take maybe 8 hours to make your first newspaper-style crossword puzzle. So a business model of asking people, oh, you like solving crossword puzzles? Maybe you'd like to spend 8 hours banging your head against a wall trying to make one. And then if you succeed and persist, then maybe you'll pay me $20. That didn't get a lot of customers. But I noticed that a ton of teachers were trying to use it to make teacher-style puzzles. And I thought, that's a little weird. There are 50 free sites for teachers. And so I thought, well, I'll, do some work and adapt it and see if I can expand this market. And what I found was that even though there are maybe 50 free sites for teachers to make crossword puzzles, they're all pretty bad and I don't want to, I'm not insulting them as you shouldn't use them. Most people actually, that's all they need is the free thing. But free has some drawbacks. So there's no customer support that, free pays for. There's no, you can't save your puzzles and come back to them later because, that's a database work. If it's paid for by ads, the sites are kind of difficult to use because they don't make money if you have a great experience. They make money if you click on an ad and go to a different site. So, and I actually, for a while, was getting a good number of my customers from ads on their sites, from people looking for better sites that didn't have ads. So I found that kind of accidentally, I stumbled into being the absolute high-end best in the market, and it's a slightly different market from the free for everyone, but there's the best and the cheapest, and I can't compete on being the cheapest, but I could compete on being the best.
Right. That's really interesting that, well, first of all, that you made this tool kind of just to get it in place, and then you noticed who was using the tool, and then you further optimized that tool for that audience, which was teachers. And then as part of your journey, you looked at everyone else out there. I mean, that's really great that you're aware of all your competitors. I know that a lot of people out there are afraid, or they kind of cringe to even think about their competitors. And it sounds like you and I are on the same page in that we love having competitors because it shows us all the wrong ways to do things, right? It shows us all the frustrations that everyone else is having, where in your case, you were saying, you try, when you're trying to use these other free solutions, they're not really friendly. They have ads. You can't save the things that you're doing. So you're like, okay, now I see what not to do and how I can differentiate on these sorts of things. So that's really cool. And it's I mean, only in this day and age, right? Only on the internet can you kind of create some goofy tool, but goofy in a good way, and then make some money from it. So you made this kind of superior crossword and word search generator used by teachers. And then, so what did you do at that point when you're like, okay, I made it, people are using it, I'm making some money from it? How'd you grow it from that point?
Yeah, so it started out just the standard iterative optimizations, make it a little better, A/B test it, try to get all the numbers up and up, and then at the point that Crossword Hobbyist started making, not great money, but enough that I could say, at least for now, I don't have to go back to working for someone else. I thought, how can I extend this, expand this? So I added my word search tool for making word searches, just again from the competitors, actually, just looking at other sites that offer crossword puzzle makers. What else do they offer? So it wasn't the most creative idea to add word searches, but that was the addition. I looked at Google Trends, which was a lot of fun to see. If you look at search volume for crossword puzzle maker over months, it's really high from September through May, and then June, July, August, it completely craters because teachers go off for the summer and then they come back. And if I looked for word search maker, which was the analogs to say, should I add a word search maker? The volume was about 2/3 the volume for crossword puzzle maker, and for each month it was basically the same. So if you looked at like 1 year, September was a big month, it would be a big month for word search maker too, and it was just 2/3 the volume, all the time. And I thought, wow, if I add, my word search or a word search maker to this, I could boost my customer base by 66%. And they'll behave exactly the same as my existing customers. So it was a super low risk business.
Awesome. And I love that concept of you have a product that's successful on its own, and then you say, well, what else can I make that's really closely similar to this, so that number one, all the users from product number one can use product number two, but then I'll also capture brand new people who maybe weren't looking for a crossword generator, but now are looking for a word search generator. And like you said, they're almost identical, right? You still have those teachers, and maybe they weren't looking for a crossword, but they were looking for a word search. So then you were just kind of thinking outside the box there. And so on the lines of speaking outside the box, have you done anything like super proactive with this? Like, have you like reached out to teachers and schools individually, or offered some kind of like done for you service or anything like that?
I haven't. In general, the thought is, so this ties back. In general, the thought is that teachers know much better than I do what they need. So there's, in terms of going back to that science teacher who has a list of, her list of vocab words, she's thinking, I know I've got these concepts I want students to know. I want them to engage with them. They were kind of bored with the lesson, or they weren't as engaged as I'd like them to have been. So I want to have kind of a fun activity where they're going to really enjoy, looking at this vocabulary again, thinking about it. And I don't have a way to reach out to her and say, oh, well, I've got a list of some science words that I think are important. It's very user-centric in terms of this person has something that they want to do, and it's really cool to see when they think, oh, I wasn't sure if I could make X that meets my needs. They really feel like you can feel a sense of creating something, of ownership, when you create your own puzzle and it's, this is all yours.
Yeah, and I think I played around with your crossword creator a few weeks ago when I first heard about you, and I played around a little bit, and it was awesome how easily it was able to be done. And kind of like you were alluding to when we first started talking, like to try to make a crossword puzzle by hand, or to try to put something together from one of these kind of badly designed free tools just sounds like a total nightmare. And it's like, well, I'm a science teacher. I just want to get these vocab words out there. I don't want to spend 2 days making something that the kids will blow through in 10 minutes. So yeah, I can definitely see what you're talking about there in that satisfaction of it being done and it being possible because people use this tool where they might have spent, a week making the crossword puzzle the hard way, and they're like, I'll never do that again. But now they can make one every week or every month, or, make it for that kind of like newsletter or something. So is this whole like teacher market, is that big enough for you to stay in forever, or have you thought about expanding out to non-teachers, or are you already kind of marketing to other people?
So 2 parts to my answer to that. So number one, it's currently about 70% teachers, 60 to 70%. The rest are everything from family reunions, personal events. Think a family reunion with every family member's name on it. Their birthdays, anniversaries, dentist's office waiting rooms, National Park Center info centers. We've got corporate trainers also. So that rounds out the rest of it, and it also supports for a teacher who's just making a one-off exercise. That teacher might not need to save it and come back to it, edit it, have full features, make it beautiful, and then paying for something. I mean, teachers, I think, should be paid more in this country, but so that's not necessarily the best way to spend. Say $6 is on a single puzzle, unless she's making them every week or 2 for a vocab exercise. But if you're making something for an anniversary gift, you want the absolute most premium. So that's the space that we're in now. In terms of other places to be, how do we expand from that market? I do think that the next phase, which we're working towards getting into now, is trying to get into learning management systems, which for the K through 12 market is teacher grade books, where a teacher would be able, through her grade book, to create a puzzle and click a button to assign it to her students, and the fact that they completed it gets added automatically into her grade book. That's something that I just think, with the rapid growth of those systems, and then for corporate training, it's the same principle. And with the rapid growth of learning management systems, I think that's something that will happen and will be a feature of those tools within 5 years or so. And if Crossword Hobbyist and my word search are the leading tools for that, then we'd be the best tools to integrate into those. And if we're not the best, then whatever is the best will be ready to be integrated, because that's outside of their core business. They don't need to be programming their own crossword puzzle maker. They want to have that as a feature they could plug in and sell it to schools as we have more features than the other one, or if you buy our premium version, then you get all these features, including the crossword puzzle maker, that kind of thing. So we're laying the groundwork for that now.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's a really cool way of looking at it, that you say, there's this, the technology is, almost there. It's 80-90% there. And there's the certain degree of our, teachers and schools and organizations and all of them using it. So you're saying that, within the next couple of years, they'll be ready to go. So then your thinking is to be properly positioned ahead of time. So that way you'll be all ready to hook into this. And what's really cool about our conversation today is, in my head, I'm drawing all these different parallels, like sort of in software development that I kind of went through myself. Like I sell a backup plugin. And when that first came out, I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to compete with all these other free website backup plugins? Well, it turned out all the free ones sucked, didn't work, were difficult to use. So then it was still able to make money there. And then there was that sort of playing around with different pricing issues and trying to figure out how to price it so that this type of person and that type of person would like to use it. And then that whole thought process of who else or what other systems to hook into. And in my case, with this backup plugin, I was thinking, well, what other theme creators could I contact so that way they would have this backup functionality built in, but they wouldn't have to spend 2 years coding it. So I'm kind of picking up on just some of these similarities here. And you mentioned in there about the pricing, right? That you said that you wanted to price it so that sometimes people could have some features, but not others. Some teachers might want to just buy one puzzle. So can you tell us about like sort of what the price points are on this and how you came to that?
Yeah, so it's $6 for an individual puzzle on either site, or $51 per year for unlimited puzzles, or $81.60 per year for both sites, which seems like kind of an arbitrary number, but that was I think a 15% discount for an annual subscription off of $5 a month and $8 a month. So I actually did a lot of testing around the price in terms of A/B testing, in terms of trying to offer different packages, different, maybe it's 3 puzzles, maybe it's 3 puzzles a month, maybe it's like a gold, silver, bronze thing. Something I found that was kind of surprising to me was if an individual puzzle cost $3, $4, $5, $6, $7, $8, up until below $7, the rate at which people would buy a single puzzle was the same. So people were just as likely to buy a puzzle if it cost $3 as if it cost $6. And I was really surprised by that. And I mean, my theory behind it is, I guess, a couple things. Number one, the biggest difference is free to paid, because the actual value of the service, if you think, oh, I've got this kind of cool puzzle, I can print it out, I can share it with, if it's a teacher, with one section, it's 20 or 30 kids. If it's 4 sections, maybe it's 100 kids. I've got this resource for 100 kids. I'm paying $6. That's actually a good deal. But if it's compared to free, it's like, well, like, do I want to spend $6? Once someone says I'm willing to spend money on it, it's not about how much exactly. And the other part of the market was, if you're making an anniversary gift or a family reunion gift, the alternate family reunion, family fun activity is, we're buying a tie-dye kit for $50, which I know because we bought a tie-dye kit recently for a family reunion. So it's in terms of the pricing, it's all a question of what it gets compared to. And as a best in the market type product, I'm focused on the customers who are not saying, how does this compare to the free thing? I'm focused on the customers who are saying, is this the best thing to do what I want, and is it worth it? And the price is always going to be worth it if it's the best thing, if that's what they're looking for.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and there's definitely that kind of price curve where it's like you were saying, like, $3, $4, $5, no difference. And there's definitely that point where there's the price resistance, but it's like it's not a straight line, right? It's not like the higher you bring up the price, the predictably less number of people there are. There's definitely that sweet spot where you're like, okay, people see the value in it. They buy it, they love it. They're not comparing it to free. They don't think it's a piece of garbage because it's only $1. So it's really cool how it's really interesting how you kind of have this. You know when to use your scientific mind and when to use your kind of relating mind. When you say, okay, well, we just had the family reunion, we did the tie-dye kit, so now I'm putting myself in the mindset of that person. But then you also kind of do the other side of the coin sometimes and say, okay, well, now here's the time when we price test, we A/B test, so that way we're not just being too scientific about it and not too emotional about it. So this is really cool. And I've been in that situation in the past where I've had to generate a crossword where I was doing like a done for you newsletter for some kind of local client or something like that. And so now instead of us having to settle for these difficult to use and not very good crossword generators, now we can use a real tool that gets the job done, that's always being worked on, improved, such as crosswordhobbyist.com and mywordsearch.com. So as we're kind of beginning to wrap up, wind down our conversation, do you have anything to say here, or anything you feel like maybe we forgot to mention?
So I think just taking a little step back and looking a little more broadly at, because we talked about the business in its how it works. In terms of the approach for getting there and for finding it, something that I've found is that a lot of times I would look for expert advice and then kind of get mad at it, which isn't necessarily fair of me because it didn't apply to what I was doing. So it's a lot of standard things like you should make a product so great that people will tell their friends about it and you won't need to advertise it, which is great if you're selling a cool product like, fashion or, a podcast. But for a product like Crossword Hobbyist, where it's a tool, it's, what's cool is something that someone can make out of it. But, like a wrench, no one's like, hey, I used this great wrench to make an awesome table. They say, I made an awesome table. And maybe someone will ask about the tools they used and maybe not. So, for that, the make a product so great that they'll tell their friends about it and you won't need ads didn't apply to me. And I wanted it to, but it just, it's, I guess for me, it's always been a struggle to try to figure out of all of the best practices I read or advice I read, is that person who's giving the advice or who it really worked for them, how are they the same as me and how are they different from me?
That's really powerful. Yeah, and I can definitely relate to that. Like yeah, everyone wishes that they were the Rolls Royce where they didn't have to run ads. Or what you're making me think of is back when Hotmail was brand new, before Microsoft bought them, when you'd get a free email account, and then when you sent an email, in that signature line, it said, hey, I sent this email for free because I have Hotmail. It just went viral and exploded in popularity. And then you think, well, if you apply that to a crossword puzzle and it's like, hey, check out this free crossword I generated. It's like, would that have the same viral effect? Probably not. But the good news is that you found a way to make it work, right? And that sometimes you hear that marketing advice, and it's like, well, I wish it'd be nice if I could be the Hotmail or the Rolls Royce, but there's more than one way to go about it. Some of us mere mortals like you and me still have to run ads or appear on podcasts or crank out the content. We can't necessarily just cross our fingers and count on it going viral like that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, cool. So crosswordhobbyist.com is the place to generate crosswords, and then mywordsearch.com is the place if you're a teacher, if you're having a family reunion, if you're doing corporate training and you want to make that knowledge stick. These are the tools that you can and should use to just make the learning process fun, right? Who wants to learn all the facts and figures, the vocabulary, just by reading a book and memorizing it? It's fun to apply it into a gamification sort of way. And as these platforms get better, they'll eventually be hooking up into your learning management system. So that way, it doesn't just have to be this printable thing. It can also be something that is built into that online platform, that app. And is there any other resources or any other kind of contact information you want to throw out here, Jonah?
Well, anyone can email me at jonah@crosswordhobbyist.com. Always looking for, if anything you've heard about, you said, oh, I'd like to partner with this guy. I'd like to get my, a crossword into this other place. Obviously, anyone with a blog can embed the puzzle to be solved on their site. But if they want to do, something more, something bigger, always interested in hearing people's ideas, and looking forward to hearing from you.
Awesome. And I like that feature you just threw out there. I didn't know you could do that. You're saying you could generate a crossword to be solved and then embed it just like a YouTube video on a blog, on a website.
Yeah.
That is pretty cool. That is some forward thinking. And so if you have any forward thinking ideas, or you want to reach out to Jonah, if you want to, provide done for you crosswords or done for you newsletters with the crosswords built in. I mean, imagine if you were a sort of salesperson and you had a way of knowing through Facebook ads or some other way of knowing when some of these family reunions were coming up. You could say, hey, you're doing a family reunion, just give me your details and I'll crank out your crossword for you and use Jonah's tool to do it. That's just an idea to throw out there. So Jonah@crosswordhobbyist.com. If you have any kind of joint venture idea or any kind of system you want to hook these platforms up into, and then just to throw out the URLs one other time, crosswordhobbyist.com to use that crossword generator, and mywordsearch.com to use the word search generator, just like it sounds like. So thanks, Jonah, for this really interesting conversation and telling us about this amazing tool that on the surface, we've all heard of it. We all think, oh, that's weird. Why would I use it? Why would I make money? But with that little tiny bit of education, now I think we can all get excited about crosswords and what they can do for our students if they're teachers, or our clients if we're trying to educate our customers. So this has been a really interesting conversation, and it's always helpful to hear about someone else's journey, about their struggles, to hear about how they've solved some of these problems, and in your case, grown and taken on these employees and just really blowing up here. So thanks for that really enlightening conversation.
Yeah, thanks for talking to me. It was fun.
Did you leave us a quick review on iTunes yet? It's quick and easy. Just go to marketeroftheday.com/iTunes, click the View in iTunes button, and we would be very grateful.